You are listening to the Overwatch League Network, the podcast with Deadeye on all the Overwatch League news and information. The show with Tactical Visor on the statistics and analysis. Here are your hosts, Totally Drunk, Spider, and Slambo.
Man, I gotta get used to using the soundboard all over again. Cause, we've been using BeLive for so long. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Overwatch League Network, the podcast with Deadeye on all the latest Overwatch League news, information, and esports analysis. I am your host, Totally Drunk, and tonight on episode 77, we'll be discussing the latest in Overwatch League news, including an update on the OWL Homestead matches. Washington Justice make another acquisition to, try to add some additional firepower on a specific line. We have Stage 2 Week 3 takeaways, and of course we'll get you primed for this upcoming travel week in the Overwatch League, and so much more. Before we can get into the news and introduce you to my co-host, I just want to take a moment to thank everyone who is hanging out with us tonight on Twitch for our live show, and of course to thank all of our repeat listeners out there. So, as you can see, it's another week, another host rotation. Spider is out tonight, and I'm sure that, Seoul Dynasty crushing Dallas Fuel had absolutely nothing to do with that. Don't let him tell you otherwise. But back with me again is my hashtag soulmate, Slambo. Slambo, always good to have you back, brother. How has this past week been treating you?
Oh, what's up, nerd? And my goodness, this last week has been kind of kicking my ass, for lack of a better term. I'm a bit beat up. I'm a bit exhausted. I had a long weekend. I know it sounds kind of like a complaint, but I was at the Game 6 of the NHL playoffs last night in Vegas, and it went a little later than planned, and it wasn't even that late necessarily, but just kind of threw off the whole night, and then work today was crazy. But listen, I'm not going to complain. We had a ton of fun Overwatch action. As you mentioned, we may or may not have beaten Spider's Dallas Fuel. And I say we as in the royal we of the Seoul Dynasty and all the fans on the hashtag Solar Coaster. I do agree, and I am convinced that Spider did in fact not show up because he did not want to take the verbal lashing that he would take from you and I. No, in all seriousness, I am concerned that me and Spider have been kind of switching off every other episode. That is kind of weird lately, but I think once we get the whole crew back together, we can really give them a hard time for this loss. But I'm stoked to be here. We have a ton of stuff to talk about, as I always say we do. So I'll shut up so we can get right to it.
Yeah, I will quickly note that it was so sweet seeing not one, but both of my teams beat Spider's team. So, that was the extra cherry on top.
Little cherry on top.
Feels good, man. But anyways, let's go ahead. Let's talk Overwatch League. So, it's been kind of like a lighter news week, but we do have an alleged leak for the All-Star game skins that are coming this year. So, just as a reminder, All-Star Weekend is right around the corner. And, this is taking place between Stage 2 and Stage 3 this year on May 15th and May 16th. Voting is still open, so you can still, try to endorse your favorite players for the Stardom All-Star lineups, and that goes through April 28th. Now, looking back at last year, we got skins for Tracer and Genji for the Atlantic and the Pacific Division, respectively. And it looks like this year we're going to have Mercy and Lucio skins representing the two divisions. So if we're, kind of basing the pricing off of what we got last year, these are going to be about, 200 Overwatch League tokens apiece. And you have Mercy one that, honestly, both of these are, very reminiscent of, World of Warcraft armor sets by the looks of them. Mercy's is, a purple attire, has matching hair, devilish sort of wings. Lucio's armor is golden, and it has some green accents to it. But, outside of WoW, it has kind of, really strong, Pokemon, Sun and Moon type vibes, just based on the aesthetics, which I thought was pretty interesting, but The first thing I immediately thought of was just WoW armor sets because it looks very reminiscent of like mage and druid armor, which I thought was intriguing to me.
It's interesting. I really appreciate your very nerdy analysis of all the things that it reminds you of. No, I mean, I think, in all seriousness, you are dead on. I think both of those kind of universes you mentioned, they do draw comparisons for me. I will say that I kind of don't really care about these as much as I thought I would. I didn't get either last year, I think, in particular because of the two heroes. I don't really play either of those characters, so I didn't really have this strong will to want them. And as far as the collector's item go, they seemed so niche that I don't know why I just kind of I passed them by. And so these new skins, I think, fall into the same category for me, unfortunately, where I just kind of could give or take them. That being said, I will fully admit that this year's skins are vastly better than last year's, in my opinion. And the Lucio one in particular is, and I mean to use a technical term here, Totem, so try and keep up, very ill. No, I really enjoy the Lucio skin for sure. So, I mean, again, I'm being a curmudgeon. I'm saying kind of a bigger no thank you to the whole concept in general, but the same time, I'll probably grab that Lucio skin for the off times I do get to play him. I want those green flowing locks, like the Fabio green hair. I'm feeling it.
Nice. So we've basically gone from DPS skins to support skins. So does that mean we're gonna get tank skins for 2021?
If we don't, and it's not like a very flamboyant Roadhog skin, I'm pissed off, frankly. That's all I got to say about that.
Although it wouldn't be the only hog thing related that would irritate us today, but I'll have more on that on Wednesday. Ugh,
okay, all right, yeah.
I'm not gonna go into details. But it is well related. But anyways, we got the home set of weekends coming up. Next week is the travel week where Dallas Fuel is serving as a host, and the Ultimate Week is actually sold out. So this is gonna be our first glimpse at Overwatch League traveling. And the Ultimate Weekend is taking place at the Allen Event Center in Dallas, Texas. And this is going to feature 8 teams this upcoming week, with each team playing twice over the 2 days. So just as a reminder, the games this week are going to be on Saturday and Sunday. Now you have Thursday and Friday off for, Avengers, because I'm sure a lot of people are going to be doing it this weekend. So just for comparison's sakes, when we look at the venue, we're basically going from the Blizzard Arena, which sits, around 500 people, to the Allen Event Center, which they sold 4,500 tickets for throughout the weekend. So outside of this, we also have 2 additional home games that are going to happen this year. So we have the Atlanta Reign acting as the next host, and then we'll have the LA Valiant serving as the 3rd host this year before we, go full home and away for the upcoming season. But I want to get your thoughts now that we can get a better idea of, just how many people are going to be there. Do you feel like this is kind of like the sweet spot? And then also, I want to get your thoughts on, maybe some of the issues that we might have to face now that we are kind of like in this travel environment at this point.
All right. Okay. So, God, you always ask me such complicated setups, Totem, such compound questions, right? Why can't I just scream about something I want to? Okay, so to your first part, is this the sweet spot? No. I mean, as long as investors and money is involved, there's going to look to be scalability and growth. And if they're selling out arenas or tickets or venues this quickly, then this is merely just kind of like, okay, proof of concept, this works, we're able to do it. Now we're going to move forward with paying for a bigger arena. Now, I know that the Fusion have a similarly compared size arena, but I do feel like we're going to see bigger and bigger sites set, again, as some of these early adopters are proving it for other people. I think this is probably not the sweet spot, but this is still like an impressive number, and it will be a completely different environment. It'll be very exciting. But I think that we've seen how they filled out the Barclays Center for the Overwatch League finals and how that kind of felt. And that felt a little bit more appropriate for, I think, we're heading in the future. We're not going to get there overnight. This is where we need to start. And this is nothing to be ashamed of. Again, this is fine. But to kind of be where the regular season is played at, like there will be a bigger scale there. To your other question, as regards to like the travel as things work out, it's kind of a logistical nightmare. So things almost are going to have to be changed to like a round robin style play where teams move into a region for a short period of time. So maybe they're there for 2 or 3 weeks and they're playing other teams on that circuit, the European Korean circuit, the US circuit, you know, the US East, the US West circuit. I don't know how they're going to kind of shake that out, but there's no way these teams can kind of start flying and traveling across the country and across, you know, oceans in order to stay for like a week or to stay for one set of matches. I think there needs to be, you know, longer stints of time that they get wrapped up together. But I don't know. Listen, I'm not the guy that's going to solve this problem. But I think the arenas, the home environment, the regionalization is crucial to making this whole thing successful. So they better figure it out.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see, like, how many tickets we can sell for just, like, a regular season game, because, you know, you mentioned the grand finals, but that's a different magnitude altogether. There's a lot more at stake, obviously, in the grand finals, as opposed to, you know, just something in the middle of the stage for, you know, a regular game, even if one of the games is going to be a bigger, like, rivalry match like we will get when Dallas Fuel face the Houston Outlaws this week. And just speaking of homestand weekends, we also have official details for Atlanta's homestand weekend, which is going to be taking place July 6th and July 7th this year at the Cobb Energy Center. Now, the tickets for this one range anywhere from $40 for a single-day ticket, and they go upwards of $280. So, looking at the teams that are going to be involved in the next homestand weekend, you have the Florida Mayhem, New York Excelsior, Philadelphia Fusion, Washington Justice, Toronto Defiant, Guangzhou Charge, Shanghai Dragons, and of course Atlanta Reign, as they are serving as the hosts. Now, I don't know if you've been on social media here lately, just due to the fact that, you know, people are trying to spoil, you know, a certain blockbuster coming out this week, but a lot of people have been complaining about Ticketmaster fees when it comes to purchasing these tickets. And I don't know if this is going to be a direction that Overwatch League is going to be using moving forward, but people have been very vocal about just the fees that are associated with their service. But what's interesting about this one is just the timing of it. This is happening during July 4th weekend. So how much do you think that's going to impact the amount of tickets that they're going to be able to sell, or do you feel like that's not going to come into play here?
No, it's not, because the demographic that's going to come to this, the people that are going to come to this, they're not celebrating 4th of July in the traditional sense as most Americans are. They're a younger audience. They're an audience with disposable income, and they put it towards their hobbies and passions. And if this Overwatch League weekend is happening right then, they're going to make it work. That being said, like, this is on Saturday and Sunday. July 4th will be on a Thursday. So there's still time for people to do the holiday stuff and then make a drive or a flight. So I don't feel like this is going to impact it at all. What's a bummer, and selfishly, I know you're not really talking about me, but we just had got tickets to a show for July 5th, and I totally just had spaced it. And I was like, damn, and then, so now I'm like trying to figure out, do I try to get rid of these show tickets and then find a reason to be in Atlanta for work that week and then just make it a long weekend? So I'm trying to like scheme, all of it, but at the same time, man, I don't know. Anyway, I was gonna say what band and show I'm seeing, but no one gives a crap. All right, I don't know. So I kind of want to touch on the Ticketmaster thing, and I get it. People are gonna whine about it, but trust me, guys, like the change is not gonna come from us, the esports audience. There's a way larger scale audience who purchase tickets through Ticketmaster every day that needs to join and become part of that vocal majority. So I'm not trying to I'm just saying, just deal with it. If you've been a live sports fan for years, you pay all sorts of handling and ticket fees and service fees. I that's why you can go out there and usually find competitors to them. Maybe there's not competitors in this sense, but it's just part of the game. And I would love for there to be a change there, but it's not going to be us who does it.
Probably not. But, I mean, I'm pretty sure it's probably up to the teams to deal with all that stuff anyway. But moving on, we do have a new roster move that we definitely need to talk about. And this is coming from, one of the better teams in the league, going to one of the worst teams in the league. Imagine that. That seems to be a common trend here as of late. And again, this is coming from the Washington Justice camp, much like the last time it was. So the Justice have added a new support to their lineup by acquiring Sleepy from the San Francisco Shock. Now, this move comes after the acquisition of New York Excelsior's former main support Arc here in the last month. And looking at Sleepy, Sleepy was a very critical part of the San Francisco Shock since the team's inception and was in contention to play flex support for the United States team in the Overwatch World Cup this past year. He did not get that spot. Of course, they went with Raucus of the Houston Outlaws. And this season, Sleepy's playtime basically got squashed due to the emergence of Violet on the flex support role. So looking at the Justice, it's still been a very shaky season for them. Through 5 games, they have failed to secure a win in this stage. They currently hold a -12 map differential, and they are 1-11 overall this season. Now, I mean, looking at this, Slambo, it seems like Justice, they are going after these popular players that are currently benched on some of these other teams. And I will note, I feel like that's a good way to try to, win over support for the team, because Sleepy does have a fairly decent-sized following, as did Arc, obviously, because of his success with New York Excelsior in the past. And with this role specifically on the team, we have seen the Justice start to, experiment a lot. Primarily they would have Guido playing the flex support on this team, but we've also seen Stratus, who is a flex DPS, often getting subbed in to play the flex support role as well. So there seems to be kind of this revolving door, maybe not to the extent of, say, off-tank for the Atlanta Reign, which might actually be changing at this point. But it does kind of make you think, is this going to be a common trend for Washington Justice moving forward, or maybe even a move to a more bilingual roster as opposed to having that front presence with the Koreans on the tank line?
Yeah, I mean, obviously they're kind of moving into a direction that's not committing to one style or one idea, one ideal, or one language. I guess to your question, they're just committing right now to finding, I think you nailed it, players that are on the bench of other teams that are hungry to play and hungry to start. And, they would rather lose and get minutes out there on the field than win on the bench, And I think that's kind of, to your point, the right way to do that. I think additionally, kind of one of the things that stands out to me is, for the Justice, there's really not, much place else to go but up from here. We always kind of make that joke about some of the bottom teams. But, I mean, they're building the right way. I think you always need to build, some of your core positions out. So I think you can get away with doing that from a tank perspective, but you need, a really strong duo of tanks that mesh well together. I think that was one of the Houston Outlaws' strengths last season, is they just had a tank line that knew each other really well and could play well. Or it's that support line. And we see that across a lot of teams that probably shouldn't maybe win as many games as they do. Excuse me. It's like the allergies out in Vegas are ridiculous right now. So my eyes hurt and I'm so phlegmy and I'm not even sick. It's just my life. But there's a lot of strong support duos across the league. They kind of anchor in a lot of teams and have set a lot of teams apart from the other teams. So really long-winded point. I told you I was going to not do that tonight, but I really like what the Justice are doing. I think Sleepy and Arc have potential to be one of those strong support lineups, and you build around it. And there was obviously a vacuum in that position, as you were talking about, as players are trying to fill that role as kind of something that they're not even used to doing, because the team, and they felt that was a gap for them. So to fill this with such a strong player is fantastic, and to your great following. So I don't know, you nailed all the important points, but I think this is a good move for them, and I think we're not going to see this turnaround next week. They're not going to start going undefeated, but I think we're going to see more wins. They'll double their win total next stage. Let's call it whatever that is. 2?
Well, if you double 0.
Well, I'm just saying, like they have one stage win, right, over one game over all the stages. So let's double it in stage 3, so 2 total.
Yeah, I will quickly say, like, I feel like Higito, when you compare him to how he did last year when he was on the Dynasty, he has had a lot more consistent play overall. But there's still a lot left to be desired at that point. And, you know, if they're going to continue, like, this mantra of going after some of these bench players, maybe they should look at trying to acquire McGravy from the Florida Mayhem to shore up that off-tank position on this team. I don't know. Just throwing it out there in that regard. But it's definitely going to be something to keep an eye on, as Arc and Sleepy are both very notable pickups for this lineup. And, you know, Sleepy's basically going to come in and play immediately. So we'll see how he's going to fare on this new team and see where his stock is going to go from here on out, along with the Washington Justice. So, moving on, let's talk a little bit about some player and team performances, and kind of note, like, who's been catching our eye for good and bad here in the last week. And I will note, Slambo, I don't think it's so much allergies as it's the fact that Seoul winning and just stomping Dallas is so contagious that it's just striking your system.
Oh, let me clear my throat for that one.
But anyways, this is going to be our stock up and stock down. Who's on the rise and who is on the fall. So, Sambo, I know you and I both went in the direction of teams this week. We didn't really do player specific. So why don't you go ahead and start us off? Who is on the rise and who is kind of free-falling at this point?
You know, I mean, it's tough because I really felt like when I picked my teams, like one of them was pretty obvious and one of them was maybe more of a curveball. And I hope that I wasn't kind of stepping on your toes at all, but I certainly feel like the team that's kind of the stock is going up is the Atlanta Reign. And I know that we're going to probably talk a little bit later about 2 particular off tanks for the Atlanta Reign, and you know, kind of the narrative or the momentum around that position in particular. But I really wanted to kind of focus on Atlanta more as a whole, right? And where you look at a team and say, how are they doing as a unit? A good litmus test is the New York Excelsior, because they've stomped a lot of teams this season. And sure enough, the Atlanta Reign pulled out, I think, probably the biggest upset we've had this season.
Right.
I don't know if, okay, so you agree. I didn't know if there was, like, I think there's been some matches that went a surprising way. I can think of some in the first week. We were like, oh, this is crazy. And then as stage 1 played out, we were like, that wasn't that crazy. But this is the first one that I remember just kind of being like, whoa. Like, my anecdote was that we were sitting at, like, I think somewhere out, and I had my phone, and I was like, Atlanta's going to win. Atlanta's going to win. And my wife's like, what are you talking about? And I was like, they're going to beat New York. You know, and she's just, what are you, Overwatch. And I was like, yeah, this is a big deal. She just, well, okay, I don't get it. But the whole thing is I sit and watch it all the time. I never talk about it. I never, like, verbally say something to her or most people around me. But in that moment, it was such an exciting time. So, but Atlanta, you know, beating New York, and I know that Rialto went in New York's favor, but I felt like at that point in the match, like, Atlanta had done what they needed to do. They were kind of over that hill and a little bit exhausted, and they still played that map very well. They were able to finish it. So, I don't know. So to me, I mean, for a number of reasons, I guess I think we're gonna talk about some more of the off tank role, which I think has something to do with it, and I think we'll talk about how much that role had to do with it. I'm really stepping around this, aren't I? But I feel like as a unit, Atlanta's on the rise. Like, are they going to be top 5 in the power rankings? I mean, that remains to be seen. Baby Bay certainly, to me, has been what we thought he would. We kind of gave him like this 2 or 3 week window where he'd get more in line with the team, and it really just didn't come down to his pure mechanical skills. I felt like he's brought a nice energy and a presence and a laid back attitude to the roster. With Dufran leaving, there was a lot of, you know, unsureness. There was a lot of inconsistency, and I think he's bringing some more of that confidence, that swagger back to that lineup in his own Baby Bay way. So that's a team that's on the up and up.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and quickly go over mine.
Sorry. Okay, sorry. I was just going back. Oh, Toad, stop me.
Well,
Stop me now.
I don't want you to get too long-winded with your allergies acting up. But anyways, looking at a team that I've definitely been keeping a closer eye on here in recent weeks that has been turning a lot of heads lately have been the Shanghai Dragons. So, you know, when we look at these Chinese teams as a whole, there's really been a number of inconsistencies, at least with the Charge and the Spark this stage. In both of those cases, we thought that those teams would be coming out ahead in this stage, and lo and behold, it's really the Shanghai Dragons that have been the ones that have been a step above the other teams here. So Shanghai have currently put themselves into a position where they do have a shot at making the stage playoffs. As they currently sit at 3-2, they have a +2 map differential. The problem is, you know, they still have a date with the San Francisco Shock coming up, but they do have a winnable match coming up next against the Washington Justice this upcoming week. Now, Dragons have primarily been rolling the dice on Dean Sfera quite a bit. We've seen a lot of some fun mainstay strategies coming out on Control. Primarily the Bastion Symmetra Roadhog combination we've been seeing, which has been a lot of fun. And we've even got to see quite a bit of Doomfist coming out from Yunjin, who is really causing havoc on that front. So I have to say, like, of course, when you're talking about the Chinese teams, everyone's looking at Chengdu and, like, praising their heavy DPS-centric compositions, which they've been known for. And, you know, you have someone like Jinmu, who is definitely making the case of being the best Pharah in the league. But Dean's quietly been kind of, I don't want to say second fiddle, but he's definitely been in the discussion, and I don't feel like he's been getting enough credit. So I know a lot of people still to this point are kind of looking at the Shanghai Dragons and still kind of in that mindset of it's still Shanghai, so they're still underselling them for where they're at right now. And this is a team that's going to be in that, you know, 7 through 12 spot to, you know, vie into that play-in tournament come the end of the season.
Yeah, so I don't know. I feel like I will tell you that I had Shanghai as kind of the second team I was looking at, but I really was not trying to be too scrutinous about it, but I really look at their record and, you know, the teams they've beat, they should have beat, except for Chengdu. I feel like that was a closer, they dominated Chengdu a little more than I thought. I thought that'd be a little bit closer than it was, but they did have pretty convincing losses to the Gladiators and to the New York Excelsior. So even if they do make it to the dance and the map differential comes into play, I think they'll have a 3-3 record. They can definitely make the dance. I don't feel like they're a team that brings any threat to anyone else in the postseason, but I totally agree they're a team that stock has been up for me lately. Not just who they've, you know, beat, but how they've been doing. It's been pretty impressive. Should I go now and be a little more negative, Nancy? Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, on the stock down, I think this one's a little bit more like closer to the vest for me. This one's a little bit more personal because before this stage started, we sat down and we all kind of pitched. Why are you laughing already?
Because I know where you're going.
Right. So we pitched the teams that we think would kind of turn the tide and really be in the mix at the end of the postseason. And honestly, I thought it would be the Guangzhou Charge. And I made jokes earlier in power ranking videos and other shows where I picked the wrong Chinese horse is what I was saying. Or I put my money in the wrong place. So this one has been extra intense for me. I feel like there's bright spots on that team all over. You've got Hotba, Shu, Rio shown moment of brilliance. Certainly Eileen has shown some depth and flexibility, and it's just perplexing to me that with all that and all the potential and some of the plays they put together clearly show they belong here, they just can't seem to find any consistency when it matters most in maps. And I think they get a little too swap happy for the wrong reasons. I think they just try to move into things. I don't know, like Eileen on the Doomfist, I remember just wasn't really panning out this last week against the Rain. And I think they just linger on things like that a little bit too long. So long story short, it's more of a personal vendetta. I'm a bit bitter, but the Guangzhou Charge certainly to me have been a bit of a disappointment. And I think the nail was in the coffin. Like after the Hangzhou Spark lost, I was like, all right, I'm done. And then I really expected them to lose to Atlanta after New York. So that wasn't like the loss to Atlanta wasn't the thing that set me over. It was the Hangzhou Spark loss. But I expected them to lose to Atlanta, and they just didn't look that competitive. I'm sorry, or they did look competitive. So I don't know. They're still a team that's just down in stock for me, and I don't know. I know that they played it like Atlanta well, but I'm over them. I'm over it, Totem. Over Guangzhou.
At least they didn't break the Shanghai Dragons map loss streak record, which was on the line in that Hangzhou Spark series, because the Charge actually came out and took that first map, so
right.
They had that sigh of relief, but yeah, it was a rough week for the Guangzhou Charge.
You know, that's such a side plot, all right? It's like a side arc in an anime. No one cares. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
But I will say this. The one thing I was not happy to see with the Charge was to do with Fantasy Overwatch League. Because in that second, when they faced it, I think it was the Atlanta series, where they ended up playing what was basically the equivalent of like 9 maps in the 4-map series with how many time bank attacks there were. That was a reason why I lost like the first game in one of my leagues. And it was only by like 12 points, but they had Happy who put up like 222 points. So, you know, a scoring anomaly is the reason why they squeaked out a win. But that series was crazy. It was a weird week in maps this week. But anyways, again, I'm back on track here. For my stock is down, and this team at this point is on the lowest run I could put them at. More on that later. But I'm looking at Houston this week. So Houston have been a really curious case. Obviously, we kind of had the storyline after, you know, Flame made some comments on social media following their game against the Titans in the prior week. And, you know, we've at least seen them try to incorporate more heavy DPS compositions, which have primarily been on control maps. Anything outside of that, they've been running 3-3. Now, I will say, like, Linkzr on Hitscan, when they are on control, has been really popping off. The problem is that hasn't resulted in them consistently taking that map type, and then whenever they do switch over to the 3-3, things just seem to unravel at the seams. So I don't know what's really going on with this team. I don't know if it's a case of maybe like their parent company just not wanting to spend money, because there's a lot of talk about that, or if it's a coaching issue with this team. But this team still seems to lack this identity, and it feels very reminiscent of last year's Dallas Fuel lineup. So I don't know what the Outlaws are going to do to try to improve, if they're going to keep trying to be like, yeah, we're just going to try to, you know, keep at the 3-3 and then just kind of fall in on their face. But really, when I look at Houston, they're basically like the team equivalent of Trippin going upstairs. It's hard to watch.
Damn. Wow. I will say this. I mean, I know we kind of have Houston on our docket later, but I feel like we're kind of squashing this bug now. But I think Flame's toxicity is just who he is. There's really no way around that. So I don't think that's as much a contributing factor as some other things, but I certainly feel like it doesn't help anything, and he can calm down a little bit. That'd be good. I was thinking exactly about the Linkzr piece, and I'm not saying that I probably could sit there and draw out the X's and O's of the hows, but when Linkzr is out there, I feel like there was those old Shadowburn rosters, like whatever team Shadowburn was on, like everyone did a better complementary job of playing around him and dealing with his style a little bit more proactively. So I feel like when you have a weapon in your back pocket like Linkzr, who has shown the ability to kind of just frag out and have some of the best mechanical skills as a DPS player, certainly as far as a European or Western player, one of the best, you know, you need to play around them. And I think I see what you're talking about on control maps, and it seems like a bit frustrating, like there's a lost opportunity. And, you know, to your point, like, okay, they need an identity, but you're only going to find your identity by experimenting, by like, you know, to make it like a social thing. You got to go out there. You got to make new friends. You got to talk to people. You got to try on those fancy leather pants. You got to, you know, go check out a sports game. You don't know what your identity is until you get out there and experiment. So the Outlaws, they need to get a little bit more flexible and aggressive outside of control maps and find their identity and find like who they want to be, because right now, big oof.
Yeah, and what's crazy too is like we still haven't gotten to seeing like the pulled pork with the Junkrat and the Widow like on Anubis, which you would think in this current meta would be something that they would feel very comfortable with, and for whatever reason we just haven't seen that look. But we know they have that inner wheelhouse. We've seen obviously Muma playing Orisa, Rawkus has played Roadhog in the past, Jake is still decent at Junkrat. That's his most viable hero probably at this point. And Linkzr, even when he's only coming in and playing one map, he has been really the bright spot on that team. So I don't know, that team just confuses me, because for someone that has like as much of a fan base, there's definitely a lot of fans that are, I'm not gonna say like leaving the team and not like continuing to support them, but there's a lot of lingering questions that the fans are just wanting to, have resolved at this point. There's a very huge lack of transparency with this team, and I don't know.
I like that transparency. Yeah,
and it's like one of those
thing. Yeah.
It's just one of those scenes, and I don't know what's going to be the thing to get them back on track. Maybe, God forbid they beat Dallas Fuel next week. Maybe that'll be the thing to kind of set them on the right path. I don't know what it's going to be, but it's definitely been a rough go of things. But speaking of which, we had a pretty crazy week in Stage 2, Week 3. We saw the return of Dako for the Atlanta Reign, as you were alluding to earlier.
Aha! Finally, we can say it.
So, Dako is back for the Atlanta Reign. We still did see Fried in this series, and Atlanta basically comes in and they snap New York Excelsior's regular season win streak. And I have to say, Slambo, for Atlanta, it was kind of a polarizing week. So they go from winning against the Excelsior to losing to Guangzhou Charge, who have definitely been a team that has mightily struggled in this current stage. And for Atlanta, they lose to basically Valiant, who hadn't won a game at all at that point. Then they beat New York Excelsior, who were undefeated. And it just got to the point where they were basically spawn camping New York Excelsior when they got to Kings Row. Now, I know there's been like a little bit of talk about like maybe some behavior issues leading to the benching of Dako here in the recent weeks. But it just seemed like in this particular series, Atlanta Reign had outclassed New York Excelsior, and that included the 3-3 mirror compositions. And a lot of this was just due to the heavy focus that Atlanta was putting on mono. And I will quickly note, Dogman had a hell of a week this week. And I felt like that was all the doing, just due to the fact that he knew that at the end of the week, he was going to get the bowl cut. So he had a play out of his mind, and sure enough, he put up some pretty serious performances this past week, and, maybe he's made his, maybe he stamped his claim to be the start-in flex support moving forward on this team.
I think I've been making Dogman jokes like this whole stage, and he's said some fairly controversial things throughout the course of the entire season so far, but I sure think that he has shown growth. He's shown humility. He's shown transparency to the fans, and he's certainly someone I enjoy kind of following. The bowl cut was a perfect cherry on top. I think that not as much of a hard straight line as I was hoping it was going to be, but you know what? It's fine. It gets the job done. And but Dogman definitely, his stock went up, certainly. So
yeah, I do quickly want to note though that when it came to that series, this is the problem. Anytime New York loses, people are always looking at what New York did and not necessarily what the opposition did. A lot of people like to spin the narrative, and that seems to happen every time when it comes to New York, whether it's in the regular season or during the stage playoffs. I don't know.
I'm spiking Totem. I'm sorry.
That's not good. But anyways, let's go ahead and talk about the San Francisco Shock really quick. As the Shock did set a new record here in this past week by snapping the Houston Outlaws map win streak record, which was set at the start of the inaugural season in Stage 1 for the Outlaws. So, the Shock have won 19 consecutive maps and are currently 5-0 in this current stage, and are going to be looking to close their stage out against the Philadelphia Fusion and the Shanghai Dragons. Now, looking at how these teams are playing, you have the Fusion, who are probably still in that confusion kind of state right now. Dragons have definitely seen an uptick, but both of these games would be winnable for the Shock, so there's a very good chance that they could be one of the 7-0 teams in this current stage. And lately, especially in this last week, Slambo, something that we got to see out of the Shock is they've started to incorporate a lot more Sombra into their gameplay, with Sinatraa moving off of the Zarya role and playing the Sombra. So you can basically chalk this up to, practice ahead of the stage playoffs. And, Choi Hyo-bin has definitely been picking up a lot of momentum. We've been seeing him eat a lot more Graphiton surgeries here in recent weeks. Godsby definitely had a rough week going up against Choi Hyo-bin. And, for the Shock, the Sombra practice is kind of interesting because not all of these playoff teams have been running the Sombra, so it's kind of hard to equate, how much that's actually going to pay off, especially knowing how good the Shock have been just in these mere 3-3 situations.
Yeah, I'm not sure it really matters, I guess, to your point. I think you kind of called it at the top that essentially right now it's just practice, and I guess is it worth doing Sombra or spending some time, grinding that axe? I mean, to your point, is it worth doing anything, or does it matter what you do? I guess it's worth doing something. I guess, I'm not saying don't use the time constructively, but kind of whatever direction you're trying to build, it's all to either, build up muscle or shave off fat. So, if you're just trying to build a skill set in particular, or kind of build some hero depth in case you need it, that's kind of putting on muscle. Or if you're trying to find out if you don't have the roster that supports a character, that's trimming the fat. So I think either way you put time into it, it's still good. I personally am concerned for Choi Hyo-bin's health. I'm for his weight, because it cannot be healthy eating all those grabs. You knew where I was going with that before it was done. You knew. And I think this roster also, I think Sleepy's going to be missed from a certain fan perspective, but I feel like the lighter you can be as you move throughout the stage is better. You can spend more time and resources on the players you have. So I think that this team kind of shedding a little bit of weight too just kind of makes them that much more lean, mean, and ready to kind of move through stage 3 and 4. And I mean, they're scary. They're scary. I don't want to mess with them right now.
Yeah, they are definitely taking that London Spitfire approach of trimming the fat a bit, and we all saw how that ended. Maybe we'll see similar parallels between these two teams. I saw the London Spitfire doing laps the other day. They're at the community track, just sprinting. They're looking great, Totem. They lost some money. I mean, not only have they looked great, but they also have a meme T-shirt for the London Splitfire. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah. Oh, I saw that. The fantastic folks. I don't know if it was Fanatics or Adidas or where it was, but it was just again, the Splitfire. Jeez Louise.
I don't know how that happens. It does, and I just love that. I love that they embraced it immediately on social media, and that's what really matters at the end of the day.
All the meme game, all the social games is really strong for all the teams.
Yeah, so, at one point, Spitfire were spiraling out of control. Now they've maintained control. But, something that was happening a lot here in recent weeks, or this past week, was really the sudden reemergence of Toby as the Boop God. And a lot of this was just due to the fact that, Doubtless Fuel was kind of stuck on Eichenwald on the bridge for, 4.5 minutes. That's not where you want to be, at all. And Toby actually set a couple of new records. So Toby set a new record for the most environmental kills on a single map, which was 8 on Eichenwald. And then he also had 9 total throughout that series. Now, a lot of that was just due to Eichenwald, but both were new records. And, on Eichenwald, really, that bridge is one of the only areas on a map where you can legit get an environmental kill, because you're not really seeing them on the first point, because there's not a lot of fighting going on, on that left-hand approach.
Edge, yeah, right.
But, it definitely helped that Dallas was kind of just stuck on the bridge, and it seemed like Dallas, I'm not going to say Dallas completely ignored him, not all of the boops paid off. It seemed to, alternate, which approach he was taking, but he was definitely trying to wall ride, going for the tricky plays. But looking back at this past week, Slambo, I don't know if you could have asked any more from that support line. It really felt like we were seeing the lunatic high core support line, at their peak. And I've never seen a support line just command a series the way that they did in that one.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. And I don't know. I mean, I was at a place as I'm watching it that, if that was me a few of the times that was getting booped, on the bridge, you just want to pull your hair out, because you're just oh my God, I should have seen that coming. But, that's kind of the beautiful thing about that Lucio role in Overwatch in general, is there's so much going on. There's so many things you need to keep track of, that if you lose track of that Lucio for just a few moments, especially, on a bridge like that, it can really turn the fight. And I think that, Toby single-handedly held the bridge and ended up winning Eichenwald for his team. And, to your point, that doesn't that often happen from support lines. I just was talking about how you build from the core out, support out. I think that's right. But those aren't the flashiest plays. You don't always notice their impact. It's almost like when you don't notice them in the kill feed, that's because of how well they're doing, because they're just not getting killed at all. They're really remaining in a safe position, and they're able to, still be effective from wherever they are. So, to see them to Toby to fill the kill feed, flashy plays, kind of be the reason they won, that map and, other maps, throughout the entirety of the series. It's just a really cool, again, another element of the Overwatch League that's really fascinating, is that's another way that teams can win and swing it in their favor. And so congratulations to Toby. And can you imagine if we had gotten maybe in the map pool another couple maps with a lot more boop opportunities, or in Nepal or something like that, or Ilios? Oh my gosh, I think it would have compounded itself, and we could have really extended the record. But certainly something to be proud of, and really fun to watch. Great for the viewers too.
Yeah, and the last one I do want to talk about really quick is about Houston. And I don't want to go too great into detail, just because I did use them a little bit earlier for the stock up and stock down. But right now, Houston are currently sitting at 0-3. They have a -9 map differential overall. And their upcoming matches, might be a little bit more winnable, but it was a rough week for them. They got 4-0'd by the Fusion. They lost 3-0 to the Dragons. And for Houston this past week, if you just look at that Shanghai Dragons match, they only put up 2 map objectives in that series in 4 maps. That is a yikes. And the Philadelphia one wasn't that much better. They had 3 map objectives in that one, so it hurts to see. So you basically go from, a team only putting up 3 points, and then you have the Atlanta Guangzhou Charge game where you see 15 map points getting put up. It's just one of those things that we've definitely kind of entered that point now where the parity in the league is at an all-time high, especially now that, New York has lost in the regular stage, and that's kind of push Vancouver, as the sole benefactor, so to speak. So I'm excited to see that, but we'll see whether or not Houston can pick up a couple of wins. But it's crazy when you look at the standings for this current stage, how many teams are either winless or how many teams are currently undefeated. So who knows? We might finish with 3 undefeated teams and 3 teams that don't even pick up a win this stage.
I don't want that to happen. I mean, I know that the parity is good, and the middle is very confusing. You're one, series win or a few map wins away from making the postseason, kind of in that middle of the pack. But man, the top and the bottom, they seem to be very clearly separated, and
Hmm.
I'd like a little bit more, of a blend there. Now, in regards to Houston in particular, it's tough, man. I, who are we to say much of anything? But I will tell you, I just feel like they're a bit antiquated. This league moves so quick. Rosters are changing so quickly. Expansion teams, growth, meta changes. They just seem to be stuck in the mud sometimes. They need to iterate quicker. They need to experiment. I said that earlier. I think there's talent on this team, and there's individual pieces that we're going to see on Overwatch League teams for the next 3 or 4 years. Like, if this team ever gets blown up, it will, again, you'll see a lot of people move on, but it's just time to act now and to do something now. And certainly, this week against Dallas, I think they have a good chance to right the ship. It's not against Seoul, but spoiler alert, Toto, my thoughts on week 2 are Seoul's in trouble because these are the games we should win as Seoul Dynasty. So these are 2 games we're going to lose in week 4. Okay, I already spoiled, so I'll shut up. But anyway, my whole point is Houston has some and most of the pieces. They just got to put themselves out there and figure out who the hell they are.
Right on. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at Stage 2, Week 4, which is the travel week. So again, just as a reminder, games are going to be played on Saturday and Sunday this week. And, we have quite a few teams that are currently sitting, undefeated. Now, granted, they don't all have a lot of matches, as most of these teams have only played, 2 games. But, you have the Chengdu Hunters, Paris Eternal, LA Valiant are basically in a situation that need to win out at this point. Dallas is kind of in a similar spot. Hangzhou Spark. There's a lot of teams that have 2 wins right now that when you look at the standings and just knowing how many teams are undefeated, they just need to pick up as many wins as possible. And, maybe in, Chengdu's case, we're going to be a little bit harder on them, primarily just due to the strength of schedule that they have had this stage, as they did have, the easier probability of making the stage playoffs just based on the win percentages of their opponents. But Dynasty this week is a curious case because we face Houston, we face the LA Valiants, and, these are definitely games that you could perceive as being trap games, as you had mentioned. Outlaws
that is literally my notes, is it's a trap.
Yeah. Wow. Outlaws, in the case of, Dallas, in that series, Outlaws are known to play Dallas usually pretty tough, so, Seoul's been a curious case. I think we can finally put to rest, the B team discussion, so to speak, that's been going on when Fitz has been coming in, playing a lot of the Zarya, and I know there's been a lot of discussion about, why isn't Seoul playing Fisher? Where's Fleta in this current lineup? And, it's... We've had a lot of time to kind of, weigh in and think about where these players fit. And at the end of the day, this kind of heralds back to my initial thoughts on the signing of Fisher to begin with, and that was the stylistic clash that was going to happen on this team, where Fisher is known to be hyper-aggressive, which is not the Seoul Dynasty mantra. And at this point, Fled is in a similar situation too, where he's known for playing more aggressive, and I feel like if it's hand in hand with the style that, Fisher would bring to the table. But this is a more adaptive Seoul team than we have seen in the past. And while we have seen a little bit more flexibility in regards to, whether they want to be a little bit more defense and adapt, or if they want to be a little bit more aggressive, it's more of a measured aggression, and I feel like the current lineup that they have been running has been better suited for what the team needs. I know people are kind of looking at, Munchkin as kind of being, the odd man out, primarily looking at, his Brigitte play, and I don't think it's been as big of an issue as a lot of people have been making it out to be. I'm not gonna say, he's been as aggressive as, say, Hoxel, who's really been kind of, the measuring stick for, the elite Brigitte players in the league, but it's another thing to be someone like EQO or someone like Zachary, who's been on this role, who have kind of been kind of like one of the weak spots on some of these respective teams where, when Fusion lose EQO early, they tend to lose a majority of those fights. Zachary's been getting caught out of position on that role quite a bit, and Munchkin hasn't really kind of fallen into that sort of corner. So I feel like the team that Seoul has been running, or just the lineup that they have been sticking with, has been the better fit. And, Marvel, despite, a lot of people maybe not thinking he's as good as Fisher on that role, he's not been playing horrible by any stretch of the imagination. He's been holding his weight. And, if Seoul can walk away with a 2-0 week, I'll be ecstatic. But this is just one of those weeks where I look at the schedule and I'm being like, I don't know what's going to happen this week, because this is...
That's it. That's it.
We've seen this play out.
We've just seen this. Oh, God, we said the same thing at the same time. We've just seen this before, where we end up playing really well and start showing these signs of promise and really turning the corner. Now, this year's different because of, again, like the changes to the roster and the team we see out there isn't necessarily some of the marquee names that we expected to see, but it's about results right now, right? And actually, we named it the Solar Coaster this season because the first stage in a fourth was just a little bit mad, I felt like. But these past couple weeks, they've shown, I think, some real consistency, across their lineup, and that makes me scared. Now I look at the roster, I'm like, no, we're on an upswing. We're on an uptick. Oh, we're playing 2 easy teams this week. We're in trouble. This is not good. So I don't know. That's where I'm at with that. But you definitely nailed it for me there. The other thing I just wanted to say this week, I looked at the schedule, and I'm not sure if you saw it the same way I did, but I was looking at, there was one matchup in particular that I don't think really would have mattered to me, but it stuck in my ribs from week 1, stage 1. It's a rematch of Paris versus London. In the pick'ems, in the standings, we heard rumors about Paris, but all of us had London winning that game easily. And Paris came out and made a statement, and all of a sudden we were like, Paris is the best Ghost team. Paris is the best Ghost team. And like everyone kept talking about it. And I just remember that being the game that really started London on their tumble, down the power rankings, down their emotional spiral. And so this is a good chance for them to right the ship, I feel like. And London is a much different team, as you alluded to earlier. Not only, they lost some players, but they just are playing with a different level of sense of urgency, if you will. So long story short, I feel like that is a game that stands out to me. And, there's not a better way to end the week in Dallas than Houston versus Dallas, like the Texas rivalry, to kind of cap off the homestay, to cap it all off. That's really cool way to end the narrative. You couldn't ask for a better final game in Dallas. So love, the way this week is panning out. I love the way they're formatting this. All things considered, we're getting a taste of this live format in a different venue. And I'm really excited to see how the Dallas fans, how they show up in numbers, or if it's going to be kind of split like Houston, Dallas, because Dallas and Houston, not that far away. So I want to see how they show.
Yeah, we better get some dueling chance in that series like we do for the Battle of LA. If we don't, I'm going to be very disappointed.
I have high expectations we will.
And I'm glad you mentioned Paris versus London, because when we look at London, basically if they win this match, they're pretty much guaranteed a spot in the stage playoffs this stage, because they're currently 4-0 right now. So a win here, definitely puts them in.
Oh yeah, guaranteed. I think that's I think I'm just looking at the standings right now. Yeah, there's really not a lot of other teams, unless Chengdu sweeps all their matches. That'd be some variables, but I doubt it. So yeah, I think that easily puts them in guaranteed.
Yeah, so those are definitely two of the key matches to keep an eye on. But really, the problem with these travel weekends is, well, there's only 8 matches, so we could easily just go down the list. But in terms of marquee matches, the likelihood that you're gonna have a ton is definitely going to be smaller, just because one, you have a smaller pool to really pull from overall. But really, at the end of the day, you got to look at these 2-game win teams and just kind of keep an eye on how they're going to do, because this is really going to be the week that is going to make or break them, as they are playing in back-to-back days, which isn't something that has been necessarily all that common for a lot of the teams, because normally they either play one game, or they have, like, they play a game, they have a break, then they play in the next day, but now it's back-to-back, so it kind of does make you question, like, how are the teams going to prepare, not only with the travel, but just knowing that they have to play in the back-to-back days as well.
Yeah, but I'll be honest. I'm thinking as a player, like, would I rather stretch my matches out? Well, if I'm traveling over 4 days, or to just kind of show up, get it done in 2 days, and get out of town. That's much better. So you just use your travel time as prep time, I believe. So you're on the plane just prepping for both teams. But I don't know. I kind of like the idea of just getting in, getting the games over with, getting out of town.
All right, well, with that being said, Slambo, I don't know if you have anything else to add before we wrap things up, but, you know, I know it's been a long weekend for you, so...
Oh, no, I'm tired. I'm surprised I made it this long without just falling asleep face first into my microphone. And tomorrow, the Golden Knights playing Game 7 against the Sharks for the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. So send me your energy. Send the Knights your energy. Go Knights. That's all I got.
Alright, so with that being said, let's go ahead and close out the show for tonight. So if you guys want to help us out, one of the best things to do is to go leave us a review over on iTunes or your podcasting app of choice. We're always looking for ways to improve the show to make for a better listening experience for you. If you'd like to find additional Overwatch-related content, be sure to check out Overwatch Recall. That is available on our website, and then every Sunday night we do release a weekly recall, which is a listing of all of the podcast episodes released in the past week. I know this last week, I honestly can't remember what the number was. It was like 34, like something crazy, like different podcasts that released a new episode, which was definitely, I think, the highest that we've seen since I started doing Overwatch Recall, which is just crazy. But to find all the latest, you know, it's on our website. You can find Recall on Twitter as well at OW Recall. And if you would like to support our show further, consider pledging to our network's Patreon page. We have tiers starting at just $1 a month, and you can find more information at patreon.com/OWL Network. So you too can join the likes of our Master and Above patrons, Blazing Bob, Brendan, and Gabby, in helping our network grow. So thank you again, everyone, for your continued support. But Slambo, you know, we have so many ways how our listeners can get a hold of us, so why don't you go ahead and let them know how they can do that?
Why would we want that, Toad? Oh, wait. We love you guys. That's why. If you guys want to talk to us via email, send us that email to contact@owlnshow.com. Our website is owlnshow.com. Twitter, you can find us at owlnshow. Our YouTube page is youtube.com/Overwatch League Network. We're on Discord, discord.me/OWLNshow, and our Twitch page is twitch.tv/OWLNshow. A reminder, we are one of those amazing Twitch affiliates, and you guys can subscribe to our channel, show your support, and we'll give you a sweet network emoticon. We have our podcast going regularly. Our streams are for Overwatch League Network Mondays at 7 p.m. Pacific, the show you're listening to right now. OWL by the Numbers is on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific. Heroes Never Die, that's our variety Overwatch show, is on Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific. And host streams, when we do them, are usually Mondays around 5 before this show, and Fridays around 7:30 Pacific. So again, our Patreon is patreon.com/OWL Network. Again, Totem talked about it before, but we appreciate any support there. You guys can find me on Twitter at SlamOverwatch. Spider is not here, so he doesn't get a Twitter shout out. And Totem, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at TotallyDrunkCTR. And you know, like, I'm glad you have that flub, so then it just mirrors my flub. So, you know, we have that. Then we have that Pacific transparency.
Pacific transparency. Pacific. Woohoo!
But anyways, guys.
Let's get the hell out of here.
Let's get out of here. You know, go troll Dallas Fuel and Spider at SpiderGD. We'll be back tomorrow for our Fantasy Overwatch League podcast, OWL by the Numbers. Guys, thank you so much again for hanging out with us tonight on Overwatch League Network. This has been episode 77. I've been your host, Emily Drug, joined every other week by my soulmate over here, Slambo, and we look forward to seeing you guys next time. Have a good night.